Welcome to Congress in Context, your weekly deep dive into the pulse of Capitol Hill.
Yeah, we're here to cut through some of the noise.
Exactly. Deliver the important insights from recent congressional activities straight to you. Think of it like your shortcut to understanding what's really happening in Washington.
And hopefully find some of those, surprising facts and aha moments along the way.
Definitely.
So today, we're tackling a stack of new information, pulling out the key nuggets from the legislative whirlwind that was August 1st, 2025.
Right.
Our mission is really to explore recent votes, committee actions, the broader political currents, helping you figure out not just what happened, but why it actually matters.
Okay, so we've got appropriations, policy debates, even some interesting details on congressional spending. A lot to unpack.
For sure.
So let's dive right in. Let's maybe start with some notable legislative proposals, things that hit the floor recently.
Good place to start.
We saw Representatives Fine introduce H.R. 4846. This aims to provide an affirmative defense, basically a legal justification, in car incidents if someone else involved is convicted of riot. It's gone to the Judiciary Committee. And it kind of subtly signals this trend, maybe, linking civil liability to criminal convictions around public disorder.
Interesting angle. Shows concerns about protest incidents, maybe.
Could be. And then for infrastructure folks, H.R. 4847, sponsored by Mr. Garamendi and Mr. Lamolfa, proposes more flexibility for emergency relief projects. That's with transportation and infrastructure now.
Right, and what's insightful there, I think, is how you see these different scales. You've got that specific riot bill, but then also big bipartisan moves, like in the Senate with S. 2657.
Yes, the sanctions bill.
Exactly. Proposed by Senator Shaheen and Senator Cornyn, it seeks sanctions related to China's support for Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Which really highlights those ongoing foreign policy concerns.
Definitely. And then you zoom right back in. H.R. 4870 from Mr. Zink, amending the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act for specific streams in Montana near Yellowstone.
Wow.
So these smaller, really geographically specific bills, they tell you a lot about diverse priorities. Local issues bubbling up to the national level, Congress juggling the global and the very local.
That's a great point.
Ah.
Okay, so moving on to what many see as the main event. Key votes and nominations.
Always a bit dramatic.
Sometimes. The Senate confirmed Brian Nesvik of Wyoming. He's now director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. That vote was 55 in favor, 41 against.
So that one went through.
But a motion to invoke cloture, to end debate on the Rinaldi nomination, that did not pass. 44 yeas, 51 nays.
Right.
A pretty clear partisan divide on that specific nomination.
And that tells us, even when some nominations move, these deep divisions can still just halt others, especially if they become, ideological flashpoints.
Yeah.
We also saw confirmations for Casey Mulligan at the Small Business Administration, David Wohl for HUD, Nicholas Kent for Education, so some movement.
But looking ahead, potential roadblocks already.
Seems like it. Senator Chuck Grassley has signaled he intends to object to Jonathan McKernan and Francis Brooke for Treasury positions.
So when we see these divides stopping nominations, what's the real-world impact? I mean, for staffing key agencies like Treasury, is the process breaking down or just sharper elbows?
Well, it's a crucial question. This pattern, it does signal potential for continued gridlock, and that can really slow down an administration's ability to get its team in place.
Leads to acting officials, I suppose.
Exactly. Acting officials in important jobs for a long time.
Yeah.
That can affect policy, stability. It definitely highlights, I think, both the sharper ideological lines and maybe the increasing use of procedure as leverage.
Okay. Moving from those sometimes tricky nominations, let's talk appropriations, where the rubber meets the road, right? Funding the government.
The spending bills.
Yeah.
Always critical.
And here, maybe some better news. The Senate actually passed 3 appropriations bills with what leaders called overwhelming bipartisan support.
Yeah, that is striking, because these spending bills are often where the big fights happen. So finding common ground there, well, it suggests maybe a moment of functionality.
Which ones were they?
This package included the Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Bill, that's H.R. 3944, also the Agriculture Appropriations, H.R. 4121, and a legislative branch bill, too.
And leaders were happy.
Oh, yeah. Both Senator Schumer and Senator Thune praised it, called it a major accomplishment, hoped it would be a pattern for things to come. We'll see.
Fingers crossed, maybe.
Right.
What about amendments? Any interesting ones attached to those?
There were a few notable ones. Senators Blumenthal and Padilla had one aiming to stop funds being used to cut services for the Veterans Crisis Line. Very specific.
It's service.
Absolutely. And another from Senator Van Hollen wanted a report on the VO Secretary's plan for workforce reduction in fiscal year 2026.
Why that?
Well, Representative Ossoff highlighted it as nonpartisan. Apparently, the VA Secretary had previously backed off a plan to potentially fire 80,000 people.
Wow, 80,000.
Yeah. So this is Congress trying to keep tabs on the executive branch, especially when it impacts vital services like those for veterans. Oversight in action.
And staying on appropriations. Sometimes you find the most unexpected things.
Oh, definitely. Always some surprises.
Like Amendment number 3163 by Senators Crapo and Rosen to fund activities for suppressing and controlling Mormon crickets and grasshoppers.
Chuckles slightly. You weren't kidding. Mormon crickets.
Who knew that was on the agenda? It just makes you wonder about the specific constituent call that led to that one, right?
It really shows the breadth, though. Every corner of the country's concerns, no matter how unique.
True. But it wasn't all smooth sailing on appropriations, was it? There was a clash over spending philosophy.
Right. Senator Kennedy proposed a 2% cut, about $542 million, to the agriculture discretionary spending, called it a baby step towards reducing overall spending.
A baby step that might have big consequences. What's the impact of cuts like that?
Well, that's exactly where the opposition came in. Senators Hoeven and Shaheen pushed back hard.
What did they argue?
Senator Shaheen said Kennedy's amendment would undermine serious bipartisan work. Specifically, she warned it would slash critical things for farmers, gut rural development programs, and even, quote, rip away nutrition assistance for 700,000 seniors by eliminating the commodity supplemental food program.
Wow. So that really lays bare the tension, doesn't it? Fiscal conservatism versus supporting social programs? Yeah. Every dollar debated has a real human impact behind it.
Precisely. A direct, tangible impact on communities, individuals.
Okay, let's dive a bit deeper into some of the political dynamics. We heard some pretty sharp words on the floor recently.
Often do.
One Democratic member, talking about a big, beautiful bill, criticized it very heavily. They alleged that, while some might claim it stops, quote, cheaters from enrolling in Medicaid, the actual impact could be much worse, potentially risking the closure of 33 rural hospitals in just one state.
That's a serious charge. Rural hospitals are vital.
It is. And the criticism went further, suggesting that the $1 trillion in healthcare cut money would fund tax cuts for billionaires.
Ah, the classic trade-off argument.
Yeah, they gave a specific example, like a $250,000 tax cut for someone like Elon Musk wouldn't even be noticed, while these hospitals and nursing homes face closure. And the speaker also claimed the bill kneecaps wind and solar energy, said Illinois residents could see electric bills jump by $400 annually.
And who got the blame?
Directly blaming Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Republicans in Congress. So yeah, a very strong, clearly partisan take on the perceived impact of that legislation. Highlights those deep divides over economic policy, government spending.
No doubt. And these divides show up in procedure too, right? Not just policy debates.
Absolutely. We got some pretty heated debate over nominations, actually. One senator expressed real frustration with then-Senator J.D. Vance.
What about?
Apparently, Vance repeatedly demanded roll call votes on U.S. attorney nominations. This senator said they pleaded 8 times for Vance to withdraw the demand, called it an obstacle to progress on the floor of the Senate.
Wow. 8 times. What does that tell us about how individual senators can, gum up the works?
Yeah, gum up the works is a good way to put it.
I mean, this example doesn't just show how one person can slow things down. It maybe shows the delicate balance of power and, well, decorum that the Senate needs to function efficiently.
Good point.
Even one member can use that procedural leverage, slow down confirmations, other actions, sometimes maybe to force leadership to listen, or maybe just to make a political point.
Right. But amidst all that friction, there was a more broadly supported effort, too. Something bipartisan.
Yes, actually, a significant bipartisan push for Federal Reserve accountability.
Interesting. Who's involved?
Senator Scott of Florida, along with Senators Warren, Moreno, and Lummis. Quite a mix there.
That is a mix. What are they proposing?
Championing what they call a common-sense bipartisan bill to set up a truly independent inspector general at the Fed.
Why now? What are the concerns?
Well, they voiced concerns about the Fed being wildly unaccountable under Jay Powell's leadership, citing failed monetary policies, unethical practices,
Strong words.
Yeah, things they alleged were overlooked and enabled by the Fed board's hand-picked inspector general. So this really shows a shared desire across the aisle for more transparency at a very powerful institution. Rare agreement these days.
Indeed. And on a more somber note, Congress also marked an anniversary.
Yes. The one-year anniversary of the attempted assassination of President Donald J. Trump, they passed a resolution.
What did it say?
It condemned multiple attempts against the president's life, condemned those who incite violence against political officials, and also honored the victims of that shooting.
Okay, a moment of solemn unity there.
So, taking all this in, how do these, diverse pieces connect? What's the bigger picture for how Congress works and how it impacts, well, you?
Good question.
Well, those legislative highlights we talked about, even the small ones, they show the huge scope of issues. From global trade and security with that China sanctions bill,
Right.
all the way down to specific environmental things like that Wild and Scenic Rivers Amendment in Montana.
Absolutely. And the process stuff, too. The unanimous consent requests, the debates over amendments.
Prime examples.
They show how much happens behind the scenes or through these procedural deals.
Yeah.
And how just one senator objecting, like with the U.S. attorney nominations, can really change the game.
Understanding those nuts and bolts is key to seeing how policy actually gets made, or sometimes delayed.
Right.
And this raises that crucial question, what does it all mean for your everyday life? Think about that passionate debate over the big, beautiful bill. Regardless of your politics, the arguments about how it might impact rural hospitals or senior nutrition programs or even your utility bill, those are directly relevant.
So understanding both sides helps you assess these proposals critically.
Exactly. Helps you look beyond the headlines, consider the real-world stakes for your family, your community.
Okay, and for listeners who really like digging into the details, the kind of hidden mechanics of Capitol Hill, we found some interesting nuggets.
The aha moments.
Maybe. Did you know, for instance, that some House members and staff, including from the Ag Committee, recently traveled to places like Greenland, Spain, France, the Netherlands?
Oh, really? Official travel?
Seems so. The reports detail specific costs, like several members spending over $1,100 each for just a 2-day trip to Greenland back in April 2025. Covers per diem, transport.
Wow. And that's public record.
Often, yes. These detailed foreign travel expenses offers a little glimpse into how congressional resources get used, how members engage globally.
That is fascinating. Another detail I noticed from the agricultural discussions, a senator from Kentucky pointed out that hemp, legalized now,
Yeah.
It makes up less than 1/100% of all farmed acres in the U.S.
Seriously, less than 0.01%, despite all the buzz.
Yeah. It really highlights how new some agricultural sectors still are, and that legislative efforts to support them might take a long time to actually show results in the broader economy. Policy changes aren't always instant.
That's a really surprising statistic.
Mm.
And speaking of surprising, maybe one of the most stark ones, for me anyway, relates to bankruptcy trustees.
Chapter 7 trustees, what about them?
Their pay. The source material notes their compensation is just $60 per case for nearly 90% of cases.
$60? That seems low.
It hasn't increased since 1994.
1994. Wow.
And get this, for cases where the filing fee is waived, they get nothing. Zero compensation.
That's unbelievable. It's a stark illustration, like you said, how some critical, maybe overlooked parts of the legal system just operate. And how long things can go without being reevaluated really impacts the people doing that fundamental work.
Yeah. And switching gears, completely technology. For those worried about emerging tech, there's a clear policy direction taking shape.
AI, I'm guessing.
You got it. Denial of export licenses for the most powerful artificial intelligence chips, specifically ones with the total processing power of 4,800 or above.
So setting a threshold.
Exactly. And the policy also restricts exporting them to foreign entities if U.S. entities are waiting for the same chips.
Makes sense. Really emphasizes that national security focus on critical tech, trying to control the flow of advanced capabilities, protect U.S. interests and innovation, a competitive global landscape out there.
Definitely. And finally, one more on national security and infrastructure. The proposed Taiwan Allies Fund Act.
Okay.
It includes a very specific directive, Taiwan-specific cable hardening.
Cable hardening, what does that involve?
Encouraging reinforcing undersea cables near Taiwan. Improving burial depths using more resilient materials.
Wow, that's granular. But it speaks volumes, doesn't it, about current geopolitical strategies. Proactive, really precise measures being considered to counter potential threats in vital regions.
It really does. So looking ahead then, What's next? What are the implications?
Well, the legislative pipeline is still full. That recent passage of appropriations bills, it's a positive sign for Congress actually functioning.
What?
But the debates over cuts, like in the ag bill, they show that future budget talks are probably going to stay contentious.
And the nominations.
Yeah, the ongoing objections to Treasury nominees suggest that partisan friction in the confirmation process isn't going away either.
Yeah.
That could keep impacting agency stability.
Okay. What else should we watch for?
We'll likely see more on foreign policy, especially China and Russia. Bills like the sanctions proposal, the Taiwan Allies Fund Act, they signal a sustained focus there. And that proposed Fighting Foreign Illegal Seafood Harvest Act, the FESH Act. The scope of that thing shows a growing awareness of international issues with direct economic, even ethical impacts, like in global supply chains.
Makes sense. And what about accountability?
I think we'll see continued discussions there, whether it's that push for an independent Fed Inspector General or more reporting requirements for the VA on workforce changes and veteran services.
Oversight seems key.
Yeah, these trends will shape how federal agencies operate, how they serve the public. It's an ongoing, evolving process.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? And how can you maybe engage with this information?
Great question. First off, use congress.gov. Seriously, it's a treasure trove.
You can find the full text of bills there, right?
Absolutely. Bills we talked about, like H.R. 4847, S2657. You can search for the appropriations bills by their house numbers, H.R. 3944, H.R. 4121.
Or look up things like the FAH Act or that Housing Act mentioned, the Renewing Opportunity in the American Dream to Housing Act.
Exactly. And if any of those policy debates, like the potential cuts to rural hospitals or senior nutrition, if those resonated with you,
Contact your representatives.
yes, consider contacting them. Their info is easy to find on their official websites. Your voice really can matter in shaping policy. Understanding the details empowers you to talk specifics.
Good advice.
Yeah.
And keep an eye out for upcoming hearings or votes, maybe, on things like vet accountability or military funding.
Definitely. They're often live-streamed, offer direct insight into how your elected officials are working. And remember, engagement isn't just voting. Understanding these debates, sharing your perspective, that's vital for democracy.
Yeah.
And think about those seemingly small details like the foreign travel spending reports. They're public record for a reason.
Transparency.
Exactly. Transparency into how tax dollars are spent, where congressional attention is going. It's another way for citizens to keep watch, inform their own views.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's maybe a provocative thought to leave you with. In a Congress that's grappling with issues as huge as global geopolitics and as, well, granular as grasshopper control, what forgotten or seemingly minor detail tucked away in some piece of legislation might actually hold the key to a major shift in our society down the road.
Something to ponder. We hope this deep dive helps you feel more informed, more empowered. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into Congress in Context.